All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Thrilled to have Matt Little on with us. Matt has been a trip participant with LutheranHANDS for several years now, and I'm just so excited to hear his perspective on service and his experience with LutheranHANDS. Matt, thanks for being on. I appreciate you.
Happy to be here, brother. Good to see you.
Before we get any further, let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for Matt and for his willingness to serve. I give you thanks for stirring up your spirit of service within him. Be with us now as we illuminate you, as we give you glory, as we reflect on the blessings that you have given us. Amen.
All right, so we're gonna keep right on rolling here. So thanks so much for being on, and I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. You're finishing up your senior year at Penn State, but you have been willing to invest some time in this. I'm so grateful. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course, man.
So give us some background. How long have you been serving with LutheranHANDS?
Yeah, so my first trip was actually the pre-trip to the Detroit gathering in 2015. So I guess I'm one of the younger volunteers who's kind of been around for a while. That was just a couple-day trip. Went up with Grace, and then we obviously had the gathering. And since then, I think I've been on most, if not all, of the summer trips. Been a participant when we went to Guatemala in 2016. We partnered with Tree for Hope, New Orleans in 2017 for the 10-year anniversary, which was really neat to sort of see the back end of that, and just like the accumulation of everyone's hard work through the past 10 years. And then the gathering wasn't necessarily a LutheranHANDS trip per se, but was in the gathering in Houston in 2018. And then 19, I was a work crew leader with Warsaw, which was super fun, and I know we'll dive into later probably a little bit. And then in 2020, Jesse asked me to be a trip leader, which I was like so thrilled for. And then, as everyone knows, COVID hit, so we didn't get a chance to go to Warsaw, wherever we were going to go in 2020. So now I'm here and just hoping to. I don't know. I always want to go on the winter trips, but as those close to you or as close to me would tell you, I was pretty busy in high school and like to pull myself in a lot of different directions, and I just did a poor job at. I don't know. I always felt like I had to meet everyone's expectations, and my time was really thin, so I never got a chance to go to Warsaw or to the winter trips. But yeah, since 2015, been going on trips, loving every minute of it.
Absolutely, and so you mentioned you're a younger guy, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, you're a senior in college now, but when you started going on trips, you were a younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2015, how old were you?
15.
I'm making you do math.
15. No, it's easy for me because whatever year it is how old I was. But yeah, that trip was. I can remember that trip made me nervous because it was sort of like you're expanding your like church community in a sense. Like a lot of us who go to confirmation camp as well. I think that was the year it was GGP year and then the pre-trip. So I had just sort of gotten, when it's your first year at camp, you just kind of like you meet people and then you go home and now you're recognizing faces and then you're seeing them again, like for the gathering, and a lot of them go on LutheranHANDS, and that was weird for someone who was a little younger, and I remember just being so nervous. But that's one of the great things about LutheranHANDS is just that like how you just feel welcomed like right off the bat, and it was like cool because like everyone just recognized you from previous things you've done. So it definitely was like one of the reasons why I kept coming back.
So you mentioned how how you meet up with a lot of folks who you knew previously. What do you think that um, first morning or that first gathering before you actually leave? What would that be like to somebody who is from outside of maybe the camp community or other
Hmm.
events that you have met folks at? What would it be like for somebody whose first experience in this community would be when we first gather to leave?
Yeah, I think there's an energy about when the buses are all there, and there's just so many people who are all like, it's early, but they're excited. And I think just from my experience, like, yes, I went to camp for a year beforehand, and I knew some people from church, but there were a ton of faces that I had no idea who they were. And for me, it was a little intimidating, just in the sense that, like, there's a good bit of people who, like you said, they sort of knew each other. But what was awesome is I can remember countless times people came up and were just like, "Hey, like, what's your name? What bus are you on? Is it your first trip? Are you excited? Is there anything I can help you with? I mean, you have your luggage on the bottom of the bus. Do you have a seat partner?" Um, my dad went on his first trip in 2019 to Warsaw, and he, outside of our church, didn't know anyone, and he had just heard about people, and everyone was, he still talks about how welcoming they were and how he met so many friends and he can't wait to go back, and so many people from different churches and different areas. I think it would be, um I think there's just, like I said, an overall excitement that and a welcoming community that Lutheran Hands provides, that pretty quickly, I think would allow you to settle in a little bit. Plus, if it's a long bus ride, you got a lot of time to meet people and get comfortable. So that can only help you.
Yeah, bonding through that experience. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And the energy that you spoke of, I got a chance to feel that on the Guatemala trip. I didn't know
Hmm.
anybody really. I mean, I knew you actually. I knew Kirsten, who we had on last time on the podcast. But outside of you folks and Jesse, I really didn't know too many people. And um, the energy that you spoke of is spot on. I mean, holy cow! The folks that showed up were just so excited to be going, to be developing relationships, not only with people within the group was going, but with the folks that we were going to serve and serve with down there, the folks with Tree for Hope. So I can absolutely second all of what you just said about the energy being amazing. I mean, it's
It's
infectious.
almost tangible. Like, yeah, like you feel it. Like, you feel the energy. You can't wait to, hit the bus or go to the cars or fly or wherever Lutheran Hands decide to take you. You just like want to go already, which is so unique, I think. And
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. And so you started serving with Lutheran Hands as a 15-year-old, and you
mhm,
mentioned how you were nervous. What was the transition like between then and then serving as a work site coordinator?
yeah. So it was funny because I was nervous because at first I didn't know anyone, and as a little 15-year-old, you just are like, you have no idea what to expect. And then as a work site leader, I can remember Jesse being like, "Hey, like, will you do this?" And I have always said to him, like, whatever he needs, I'll be more than happy to help. So I was all excited. And the previous year, I had Dave Hamrick as my worksite leader. And I was like, okay, like, Dave is on this trip. I'm just going to kind of watch and see what he does. And then we get to our first sites and, like, all right, like, groups like 7, 8, 9, and 10, we're all dropping you off here. And it's Dave and Phil Shearer and Steve Shearer and then me. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, what, how do I fit into this group? Like, it's all guys who know what they're doing. They have experience. They've been on countless mission trips. I think Steve, he he's been going on trips forever. Like, Phil has all the shirts, like, and it's just, and then there's just me, like, and I can remember once again feeling nervous and like, what does Jesse see in me? Like, why me, right? And I think what I quickly learned is that Jesse and Kirsten put me in a place where I can succeed, and a place where I knew basically I've had experience doing everything we were going to do. And then if I did need help, I had houses, around me where people I trusted and people who were comfortable working with me, I could go and quickly ask for help. And what was awesome about our group was it was me and a bunch of youth, like kids who were older than me in middle school and high school. And then Sam Smeal, who I went to high school with, was our adult leader. So right off the bat, I was comfortable with her. And then we had one adult, and she was all by herself. It was actually her first trip. She left her kids behind, she left her husband behind, and she was just like,
Oh,
she wanted to come. And it was like that whole thing of like, well, now she's trusting this kid coming right out of his first year of college to lead a crew and to do flooring, and me and Ian Baginski did some black mold. And it was just like, again, the nerves are there, but that's one of the cool things about Lutheran Hands, I think, is that it seems evident that it's a goal that they want youth, and as many youth as possible, to be leading in as many different aspects and different roles and different congregations. And like Sam and I knew each other, but we don't go to the same church. And Matt Grabinski was a trip leader, and he's been leading since since he was my age. So that's one of the unique things about Lutheran Hands is this. They continually try to breed the next generation of leaders and try to get people hands-on experience, tangible experience. And it made me feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that there are a lot of other people who they have entrusted in like my position as just a worksite leader, and it's gone fine. And if something doesn't go fine, I have help. Like I have the support I need. So definitely nerve-wracking, but I like that year, just at the end of the week when we looked at the house and how much work we did and how much trash we cleaned, and it was really special, really, really special.
so you got to see the before and after, right? Because
Mhm.
when you showed up, there was all the work that needs done, and when you left, you were able to look back and think about all that work that had been done. And as you're reflecting here, I'm hearing you both as a former participant and as somebody who has been a leader on the trips, reflect on sort of the emotional cycle that is serving across the years, but also serving across the week. And
Mhm.
that being the nerves being high. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, both participants and leaders. Um, the nerves are high at the beginning, and excitement as well. And as the week goes, the nerves sort of settle down and give way to space for more excitement, I think, but also for more fulfillment. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm hearing you talk about is the amount of fulfillment that comes out of a week, not just in growing in deeper relationship with the folks that you serve with, but also the folks that you serve. And that's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. I think what I never realized until that trip in 2019 was just like, on Wednesday, you've now worked, like you're progressing through the week, and it's just like, I cannot wait to get to my work site. Like we already know what we're doing at this point. We're just going to hit the ground running. And some of the younger kids who are in middle school and high school, or I guess high school, who are on the trip, were just like, hey, Matt, like, I can't wait to get going. Like, can I do this today? Like, do you mind if I just knock this out today? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, you know what you're doing. And that excitement, like those are the next generation of leaders then in the congregation and in the synod and all of that. Like if we get them excited to help and to serve and to lead and to be there for one another and do good work, like that's all we can really ask for. So like seeing that progression as a leader, just like the excitement and to get into Thursday and Friday morning is just was really, really neat to be able to experience, instead of just being one of the volunteers, to kind of take a step back and watch all of that.
That's awesome. And tremendous how you've articulated the experience that you've had and the energy that you've witnessed and felt, um, which leads me to a question that I love asking. But what does service mean to you? And then maybe more specifically, what does serving with Lutheran Hands mean to you?
Hmm.
Touched on it, but
Hmm.
I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, I think service to me is there's a selflessness aspect of it. There's a humility aspect of it. that is just so important, and trying to meet people on their level. There's so many different ways that we can serve, whether that's just through donating money all the way to letting people into your homes. But I mean, I think back to the trips that we went on in Guatemala, and the humility, the humbleness that comes from that, and just trying to offer people hope and show people and a little bit of compassion and a little bit of love. And these people have had their whole homes washed away, like blown away, and to try and inspire them to keep going and to have the hope, and show them the power of teamwork, and hopefully through us the light of Christ. I think that's all you can really want for. And I know I touched on it earlier, but serving with Lutheran Hands is just so special, because it seems like that's the focus. Like, the focus there isn't going on a trip just for the sake of going on a trip. Like, we're genuinely trying to help the people we work with, and I think that is just evident in the relationships we've made with people. Again, speaking to my experience with Guatemala and Tree for Hope, and the relationship that we built with them, that I was able to go back again with Tree for Hope and see the orphanage another time with some new volunteers, and Jesse has such a good relationship with those down in New Orleans. Like, I think those are just all examples of serving people and meeting people where they're at, and just it's not of what do I want to get from this experience, but what do you need in this moment, which I think is just is so unique. So it's cool too that service can be more open-ended and fluid, I guess, just with we see through COVID there's different ways to serve more locally, and then we're able to sort of expand our boundaries and gain some new experiences from that. But yeah, I guess I'm not repeating myself, but there's a humbleness part to it. There's a selflessness part to it. There's like a, meeting people where they're at, and sort of being with them, and an arm around their shoulder. And like I said earlier, if they can feel a little bit more hope to keep them going, I think that's a win. And to see the light of Christ is all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you repeated yourself, because I think those things are tremendously important. And just as you said, we experienced that in Guatemala, and we've talked about that trip a lot, but that's the one that we've both been on. So maybe fresh in our minds here. But man, I just remember there's a picture of you and I holding, each of us is holding a little girl, one of the little girls that lived there at the orphanage, and they are beaming. And that was on our last day there, and we had just finished this huge play set that was made out of material.
McDonald's.
Old McDonald's, like tubes and platforms and stuff. But it was all this material that was laying around, and that they had this vision for, and we were able to create it with them too. Incredibly special. But and to speak to the selflessness and the humbleness that you brought up, which I think is imperative. I don't think we can do these trips without those things. The humbleness to say, we're here to serve you. What do you want us to do? Like it's about what their needs are, not what we think their needs are.
Yeah.
And then what we get out of that is the relationship. I mean, I don't speak Spanish, but man, playing soccer with the boys and holding those two little girls, it was just so incredibly special. I won't forget that as long as I live.
I think what you said just it reminds me of, I mean, John Yaus is one of my good friends, and he was on the trip too. And I can remember we did like a post meeting with our congregation, and it like brought him to tears. He's like, I don't speak a word of Spanish, but like soccer in itself is a language, and like being able to feel like that connection to people, you can't experience it doing anything else. And you're giving them I can only imagine what it would be like to be in an orphanage like that, and to come from the background that they've come from, but to give them a little bit of, an hour of smiles, like an hour of fun, to play soccer, and to see, like, I guess from a soccer standpoint, like the differences in the way they play versus the way we play, and it's still the same game. Like how cool is that? How cool is that? It's so awesome.
Yeah, well, and like universal languages, right? Soccer, as
Hmm.
you mentioned, but the laughter that we shared, especially as those kids laughed at me when I kicked the ball way over the fence and went all the way down the hill, and well, and then the laughter of those little girls too, and just
Hmm.
how excited, how funny they thought you were because you're really tall, and and how much fun they
Brother, they
had.
don't see a lot of redheads, so.
True, true. Um, but also the amount of fun that they had chasing us around and laughing at the Spanish that I attempted. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, those things. I mean, I can only hope that we gave them a fraction of what they gave us,
Hmm.
and that is, um, yeah, I say that with deep humility, and I know you know that, but it's just
Hmm.
tremendous.
Hmm.
So we're hitting the highlights here. What are some other highlights from trips that you've been on? What are some really memorable moments?
Yeah, so I think one of the more memorable moments for me was we talked about my dad earlier, and Andy asked me in the New Orleans trip to be in the worship band, and I just had a shaker and we were playing, and I realized how much I enjoyed being in the worship band and kind of taking on the leadership role and the practices. And then a couple years later, when my sister could go on the mission trips, Andy asked her to do it too. So we all of a sudden, I was able to hang out with my sister, who I was very busy in high school playing sports, and she was busy. And then when she hurt her ACL, she, was in all the musicals, and I didn't really get to see her a whole lot because our schedules were always different. And then we had like a moment together, um, just being able to sing. We were in Warsaw, and we were like on a baseball field basically. And like she was standing next to me, and being able to sing with her, was super unique. And again, it's just, looking for new young leaders to kind of step up, and um, giving my sister the confidence to sing in front of people, I think is super cool. And having my dad there on the trip, and our cousin Cheney, it was her first mission trip. So just kind of like how all of these worlds, and my family has sort of rallied around Lutheran Hands, was really special to me. I wrote down another one. I was thinking about all these good ones. Playing the band. Oh, okay. Ready for this one? I got another one too.
I'm ready.
I was looking through old pictures from all these mission trips, and just so many memories were like flooding back to me. Like I can think of like the Detroit trip where we go on the pre-trip, and one of the work sites that I was on was just we have a bunch of donated paint. Can you just mix paint together to make full barrels? Like you can make whatever color you want. Like we need to paint houses. So we would sit there with like paint guns and just buckets and dump paint into each other and mix them. And just like, who would have thought that like that on my first mission trip? Like, you're not, we weren't in the sun at first. We were with, painting. And then it was the work day, the gathering. And we brought like prayer shawls with us, from our congregation. And I remember that we were passing them out. We worked on two homes sort of side by side doing landscaping, and we were done, and we were just walking back down towards the neighborhood, and Jesse was like, go try and find, there are people on the porch giving their prayer shawl. And me being, I guess, 14 or 15 at the time, was nervous. So I made Katie Smith go with me. And we went up to the front porch, and we were like, hey, like we just worked in the house down the street. Um, here's like a prayer shawl. Like we're from Central Pennsylvania and we're thinking about you. And like how much it meant to them, um, what was awesome. They like the appreciation and the compassion, and just like the thankfulness that we were there working on their neighbor's home, whom I mean, who knows if they had seen them recently. The home was vacated, so um, and them like then asking for us to pray with them. And I have like this great picture of us holding hands, praying with them, and just like listening to them. And I remember we held up the group because we were sitting there talking with them for like 15 minutes. But like just memories like that where I feel like we've just continually talked about like relationships and how cool it is that we get to meet the people we work with at their level and sort of I think that's just so important and being able to meet those people um even for a brief moment. I think back to the New Orleans trip and the home we were working on was lost from Katrina and still hadn't, in the lower nine. He still didn't have a home. He helped his father build his home before he had his own. And he was a truck driver and he would drive trucks from New Orleans to Houston and then Houston back to New Orleans throughout the night. And then during the day, he'd work on his house.
Wow.
So I mean, I don't know how you can live that lifestyle, but he would work with us during the day, like side by side with up on the ladder of doing the windows and the painting and the drilling and all of that sort of stuff. And then he'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go grab some food. I got a load to drive to Houston. I'll see you guys on Thursday." Like I and then you look up and you see on the water lines how high the water was, and just like you're not looking like up like 6 feet, like you're looking up the whole water line and you can still see the mark of the water, and just like how sad that is, but how a memory that I'll never forget, being able to work next to the person whom I was able to help, like whose home I mean I probably will never see him again, but he was just so thankful. He's like, once I finish this thing, if you're ever in New Orleans, please stop by, take a picture of the street, like come and stay, I'll cook you dinner. Like that, the gratefulness and the compassion they've shown for people that they've never met, just welcoming us into their homes is again so special. It's something you'll never experience unless you go on the trip and immerse yourself with these people. That like things like that, like staying on a porch of a stranger for 20 minutes and praying is just stuff I'll never forget ever.
Yeah, and the vulnerability and just the welcome that we receive when we go on trips from people who are sometimes in a really desperate situation, sometimes not so much, but nevertheless, the vulnerability that is extended to us is a sacred thing, and as you talked about, to return that with service and with love and with compassion and humility, I think is the only way to go about that relationship. And I'm so grateful for your experience and that they have been so rich and fulfilling to you, because certainly it sounds to me that these are deeply seated memories, but dearly held as well. And
And it's cool that it's like every trip, like you can point to things from every trip that is different and unique, but also just as memorable as the one from 2015 is. Like no matter how many times you go, you'll experience something on these trips that will change your life and that you'll never forget.
yeah, and everywhere from the long bus ride there or back and everything in between, just as you said, it's a special experience, and I'm grateful that for all the service that you've put in, and certainly for all of the memories that you bring back and the stories that you get to share.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely. So before we close, I really want to ask how your experience was in the band, and then I'll get to one more question, sort of a wrap up, if you've got anything else you'd like to share.
The band was awesome. And it's funny because I always tell people that I'm in like a worship band, and they're like, "What, a worship band?" Like Where? How? Well, it's with a nonprofit organization, and like there's one trip with New Orleans where we asked Joel Ryder, whom is a younger kid, and we were like, hey, one day before like the worship service, do you want to come up, grab a bucket, and just play drums with us? And he was like, absolutely, I do. So
Cool.
I think Lebo had the cajon, and Joel had like an old uh Home Depot bucket, and I had my stupid shaker, and Andy was playing on who knows what, and we were all just jamming out for like 15 minutes, and we just did it before free. We just out of fun. We were doing it during free time. We were bored. And we're like, okay, we're making this out of something, and the band is constantly like changing with new voices who come in. Andy has given us like the freedom to sort of, if we want to combine songs, we'll call it like Omahawing, like audibles. We'll just combine songs and kind of have fun with it. We're able to sing at Synod Day with the gathering, which was super awesome. To not only just watch Charlie do his thing, because he is awesome and inspirational, but then be able to lead a worship and to sing with 800 people in your synod was incredible. And it's something that I never thought I would be able to do, especially someone who is not as active in like my music side as I am in other sides of my life. Being able to have fun with that side, and it's not like I'm good at the shaker. I just add it if I want to, and if Andy, if we decide it's not good for this song, we don't sing it or we don't use it. So it's so flexible, and it's my sister's like, hey, can I play the keys for this one song? Play them. Who cares? If you want to play guitar, play it. If you want to play the cajon, do it. It doesn't matter. So it's a super cool way to just re-energize the trip and re-energize the worship and get people up. And sometimes you just don't know like how much you need to sing a couple Jesus songs until you start doing it after a long day, and you're up and you're clapping and you're hugging people. And it was awesome to be able to be in the band, and I'm so grateful that Andy would let me kind of squeeze my way in with Zoe and Katie and all those people on that first trip to by the end I think I was the oldest one again. So yeah, I love, well, I guess other than Andy, I was the oldest, but yeah, I love it. It was awesome. And even just like for the last trip, we got to ride up in the little van with all of our music stuff by ourselves, and just like be able to be in like a smaller group and hang out with each other. So we really felt like we were close and all really good friends, which made then singing with each other that much more enjoyable, because we really, really loved each other by the end of it. So.
And the adaptability of the band, I think, is one of the really beautiful parts of it. I mean, as you described it, I've actually never been on a trip where we've had one. I'm a regular on the winter trips, and then I went to Guatemala, but we weren't able to have the band on either of those, unfortunately. So I look forward to the day when I get to serve on a trip that has the band as a feature performance during worship.
I'm excited for you. It is so much fun. And it's funny because like Monday, a lot of people who may never know the songs, like us singing like All My Fountains and doing all the crazy stuff that we do. And some people are like, I don't really, oh, we're dancing. And some people are like, I'm not really sure if dancing is for me. And by Friday they're bouncing around with everyone else, like they're having fun. You get to sort of see that progression just from like the crowd too, and just like the energy that it brings to those large groups is so special. It's awesome.
I love it. It is classic Lutheran Hands energy that we bring people along for the ride, and I can attest, I was the awkward kid or the awkward person in general, who is very unsure at the beginning, but by the end, that energy that is just so infectious and lighthearted, but also so willing to be vulnerable and deep. And it finds a way. It finds a way in, and at the end of the trips, I'm the guy who's dancing now. Of course, we didn't have the band on the trips that I was at, but we had a speaker and all kinds of stuff. So it's a special experience, and I'm so grateful for your shaker. Yes, but ladies and gentlemen, Matt Little is a singer. Absolutely, his voice is tremendous, and so is Jossie, his little sister. And
Oh, Jossie's she's so much better than me, dude. I'll just continue to
not
shake and let her steal it.
Hey,
I'm not saying it is.
make a joyful noise. She's great, and I want to props to Jossie all day long. Shout out, by the way, but please don't sell yourself short. I mean, come on now. You're one of the feature voices, to be sure.
And even if I wasn't, man, there are so many people who I guess aren't as blessed to be able to sing and carry a pitch like me and my sister, and just be able to sing and, well, yeah, like to be able to sing and you just feel comfortable there. You just feel like it doesn't matter. You're having fun, and that's the love and infectious energy from Lutheran Hands. It's just jumping in with 2 feet, no matter what you're doing, which is just it's so awesome. Like even just a little kid like Joel, like, hey, do you want to pretend to play the drums on a bucket? And turns out he is incredible in the drums. And then a couple years later, Andy's like, hey, Joel, we need you in the band. Like it's so cool to see, him grow up again through Lutheran Hands, through the organization. So it's awesome. It's awesome. I love the band.
It is a special thing to watch people as they start their service, but also as they continue serving with Lutheran Hands. And the only way to get that is to keep coming back. So
keep coming back.
That's a plug for sure. But you've shared so many reflections, and I'm so grateful. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd really like to mention?
Anything I haven't touched on? There's just so many stories that I feel like one of the things I think I've just learned is that people just hope that their stories go on, and the only way for that is to happen is for us to share them. I wish we had more time to do it. The people we met in Guatemala going back, where the kid with autism and his parents had to protect him from the neighbors outside, and us feeding him, bringing him food, and bringing the elderly woman whose grandchildren were like abusing her and like burnt down her home, and she lived in a shack and was protected, and we had to sneak her food. Like those are these experiences that you don't forget, and like that humbleness that I mentioned earlier, like that's where that comes from, like the humility and like those experiences and those stories you get to share. You only can, like, they change your life when you go. Your life is forever changed. And I think, like you said, the only way is to just keep coming, just keep going to the trip. So I encourage anyone out there who is just looking for an opportunity to help others, for an opportunity to feel loved and feel like it's more than you. And like you said, it's not a I'm going to help you the way I think you need it. It's how can I help you? What do you need? And then being able to do whatever you can to fulfill those needs, and just like I said, feel the love of the group, and to feel like you're being a part of something bigger than yourself is so special. So please, if there's anyone out there who is considering going themselves or considering letting their children go, I can remember my parents having reservations, and I'm so thankful every day that they let me go and now let my sister go. Please at least consider it, because it'll change whoever the participant is. It'll change their life forever, and only for the positive. So that's all I can say. This was fun. This was awesome.
Hey man, I'm so grateful to have you on. I know I've said it a lot, but I really value your perspective. So thanks so much.
Hey, thank you for putting this together. This is such a cool program you guys got going. So, and it's always good to see you, brother.
Thanks be to God. Oh shucks, don't make me blush. Come on now. Before we end, let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for the opportunity to serve your creation, your creatures, your people. Inspire within us your spirit of service so that we may continue to serve, to build relationships, and to love. Gracious God, we pray all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Hey, I love you, man. It's good seeing you.
I love you too. And to everybody, stay up to date with Lutheran Hands on all the socials. They'll be linked to this video. We look forward to seeing you next time.